This is All India Radio. On the eve of the winter session of Parliament, the News Services Division of All India Radio brings you a discussion on issues before Parliament. The participants are Jayant Sinha, Lok Sabha MP from Bharatiya Janata Party, Dr. Syed Nasir Hussain, Rajya Sabha MP from Indian National Congress, Clyde Crastow, National Spokesperson of Nationalist Congress Party, P. Santosh Kumar, Rajya Sabha MP from Communist Party of India, and John Brittas, Rajya Sabha MP from Communist Party of India, Marxist. Senior journalist K.V. Prasad is moderating the discussion.
Winter session of Parliament will begin on December 7th and run its course till December 29th. The session is expected to have 17 sittings, in which the government has already given a clear indication of introducing at 16 new bills and some bills which have been referred back to the House by the committees. There is a possibility a few more bills may be added up in the legislative agenda, but as we go along, there are issues that members in the opposition want to raise. So we have a distinguished panel of speakers of political parties, Mr. Syed Nasir Hussain from the Indian National Congress, Mr. John Brittas from the CPIM, Mr. Clyde Crastow from the Nationalist Congress Party, Santosh Kumar of the CPI, and Mr. Jayant Sinha of the BJP, who articulate their views on what are the issues and how the government and others are preparing themselves for the session. Mr. Hussain, what will be the priorities for the Indian National Congress in the session?
I think the winter session is only for 17 days, in which I think there will be only 14 working days. Opposition, especially led by the Congress Party, would definitely like to raise issues which concerns the people of our country, which concerns our country itself. So there are issues on which we would like to see that there is discussion, there is clarification given by the government, there is some sort of a statement made by the government or a white paper on these issues. I think the foremost thing which we have been raising in the last so many sessions is the security of our nation, that is concerning our border where Chinese incursion has been there continuously for the past 22 months. We are told, and there are satellite images in public domain, that Chinese have entered. There were scuffles between our and their border armament. So the whole point is, what is the government doing and what is actually happening there? This has to be debated, discussed, or at least informed to the parliament. Apart from this, state of economy. Dollar is getting strengthened vis-a-vis rupee. Rupee is continuously falling. GST issue, which we have raised last time. Petrol, diesel, gas prices, which are continuously rising, which were raised again and again. Every quarter you see unemployment rate is increasing. That we would like to discuss. We would also like to discuss the misuse of government agencies by the present regime, because these agencies have been brazenly used against the leaders of opposition parties. And also those corporate houses, media houses, which are not in tune with the present government, have been raided, have been blackmailed, have been terrorized by using these agencies. We would like to discuss this issue. Another important issue is judiciary. The present law minister has attacked the judiciary left, right and center. And there have been grumbling voices from within the judiciary against the government. Even this issue has to be discussed. These are certain issues which we would like to discuss. At the same time, we are also concerned about weakening of the rights-based acts that were brought in during the UPA government. It could be RTI, it could be food security, it could be NREGA, the scheme that provided some sort of a minimum employment at the lowest wages in rural areas across the country. So these issues, even those need to be discussed, because during the COVID times, this way the schemes which came to the rescue of the poor laborers, migrant laborers who went back to their villages and survived on these schemes. So these are the issues we want to raise as the opposition parties. And of course, the bills that will be coming from the government side will also be discussed in this parliament.
Dr. Hussain, the fact remains the Congress, of course, is the major party in opposition in Rajya Sabha with a recognized leader. The thrust has been the Congress and the oppositions has been more diffused. That is, we have seen splinter in opposition. The camps don't seem to be working always in tandem. As a result, the attempts to, as you say, opposition wants to corner the government, they seem to be not fructifying in the manner in which the opposition does not act in a collective fashion. Is that a correct impression?
I'll say there are two ways of looking at it. One is that Congress party does try and reach out to all the opposition parties as the main opposition party. I, being the whip in the Rajya Sabha for the Congress party, I know how we try and reach out to all the opposition parties. But then you should understand that we are a multi-party democracy. We have elections in the center, we have elections in the states, and different regional parties have their own stakes in their states. And some of them have been fighting against the Congress party because of the Congress being in power for 55 to 60 years at the center. And when we fight elections in the state, in many states we fight against them in the state. So there are reasons for some regional parties who do not be seen with Congress party on the floor of the House. That will hamper their chances in the state. We appreciate that. But at the same time, on important issues, all political parties do come on a single platform and raise the voice. But otherwise, UPA alliance partners are intact. Most of them do raise their voice in unison on certain issues. This is one aspect of it. Second thing is, how does the government look at it? How does the government deal with it? How does the government accommodate the issues raised by the opposition? See, we are opposition parties. The opposition parties, they don't belong to some other country. So when they raise the issues which concerns people of the country. They raise the issues which strengthen our nation. So when the issues are raised, those issues should be accommodated. Because I know as the whip of the party, these issues are raised well with the rules of the House, well according to the procedures of the House. And when we give notices under different provisions of the House, I think it is the duty of the government to take up this issue. If we raise 10 issues, they should at least accommodate 50% of them, 60% of them. If you don't discuss, then the opposition will have to protest. If the opposition protests, you say that the opposition is resorting to unruly behavior, you suspend them, you put them out of the House and try to run the House unilaterally. So the other way is then we'll have to hit the streets. So it is the sole responsibility of the government to see that the House runs. So blaming the opposition party unity, because you cannot have a unity of all the parties in the opposition, because it is not one alliance in the opposition. In the opposition, there is an UPA. There are parties which are out of UPA. There are parties which are out of NDA. So they have their own stance, and their stance also are different for different political reasons.
Mr. Britas, on behalf of the CPIM and the left parties in general, what are the issues that you would like to focus in this session, please?
We are looking up to the government as to know which are the bills they are going to bring to the parliament. It seems that they are keen to bring bills like Digital Data Protection Bill, which has been hanging for almost 5 years. And we feel that such bills have not matched the expectations of the people. And in fact, it's not serving the purpose for which the Supreme Court of India had made the ruling in 2017. Apart from that, we intend to bring numerous issues on the floor of the House, including the rampant price rise, the unemployment, and the general crisis that has infested the Indian economy, and also the raging issue of the federalism, undermining of the federal principles of the Constitution by institutions like Governor, and also the motivated campaign against the independent judiciary. These are some of the issues which we intend to bring to the floor of the House.
Mr. Britas, you mentioned about the bills. Of course, the 16 new bills that the government plans to introduce. Of the 16, would you in particular say, because the Congress also feels the multi-state cooperative amendment bill is something which they are not very agreeable to. Would you like to look at it?
Yeah, there are numerous bills like, as you rightly said about the biodiversity, the multi-cooperative society, then the data protection, the telecom bill. In fact, the IT Standing Committee which met to peruse the two bills, that is telecom bill and also the digital data protection bill, have been deliberating on the, I would say, the gross deficiencies that are attached to the bill. I'm not in a position to speak exactly what happened in the committee, but still, we feel that the bills which are in the public domain suffer a lot, and we expect that the executive would come forward to discuss with all political parties and all the stakeholders to make sure that the piece of legislations that are very important for the people need to be very effective and also should match the expectations of the people.
Mr. Britas, you mentioned on a couple of issues that you would like to take up, the left parties and probably CPM in particular. You've seen opposition has had a very splintered presence in Parliament, and the focus gets diluted as a result of the variance in approaches.
One issue with the opposition is that there could be divisions among the ranks due to multiple interests that could be guiding us. But we as a political party understand that an issue like federalism, all the opposition political parties are on board. For example, there is a tendency, there is a orchestrated attempt that is on the part of the government that if we cannot win over an opposition state, you need to destabilize or defame the state. That is exactly happening in Kerala, maybe at the behest of the governor. So the issue of federalism is an issue that concerns all the opposition parties and even those parties which are little pro-government, including those governments in Andhra Pradesh and Orissa. So I would earnestly wish that all the political parties which are opposed to the government would come together to take on the government on this very important issue of federalism.
Mr. Bitas, you mentioned about price rise. Now, that is an issue that has been talked about here in the previous session, and the fact that people's distress on various counts. So would you like to elaborate? And what exactly would that be a discussion which actually can lead to some relief for people?
I would say that even the RBI, which is supposed to be the custodian, has lifted their hands in despair, saying that they are unable to do anything with regard to the spiraling inflation. And I would say the country has been witnessing inflation on the consumer price index to the tune of, say, 7%, 8%. That is over and above the last year. So in a span of, say, 3 to 4 years, the price of the essential commodities must have gone up by 40, 50%, whereas the real earnings of the people, I would say the people who are at the lowest ebb, have gone down drastically. So there is an acute poverty, as it has been made out by the international reports, that the situation in the rural belt is very matter of a grave concern. So price rise along with the growing poverty should be an issue on which the political parties, including those political parties which are, I said, pro to government, would have to come and effectively check the government.
Mr. Bitas, the government telling now the fifth largest economy and probably have overtaken Britain in terms of our contribution to world economy, and yet the opposition has some issues on price rise, unemployment.
The government has been harping on the size of the economy. When you talk in terms of the size of the economy, whether you have surpassed the British economy, but they don't talk in terms of the population of this country. What is the average income of the people? How many people must have gone down in the line due to the COVID situation? How many of them must have turned to be unemployed people? So this is, I would say, statistical jugglery that is being done by the government always. And we had an insulation to this poverty in the form of Manrega. The government out and out has taken measures to finish off this very reasonable, I would say, poverty alleviation program, at least empowering those people who are downtrodden. That is this Manrega program. The allocation has gone down drastically, and even the allotted amount has not been sanctioned to states, and there have been a lot of tweaking on the procedures and the, I would say, enabling clauses. So I would urge upon other political parties to ensure that such systems which have been brought up to help those people who are poor, even that has been downgraded, or rather it's on the precarious level of exit. So there are a lot of issues which we think that members of different political parties can come together.
Mr. Crossley, we would like to understand, for the benefit of our listeners, are there issues which the NCP in particular wants to raise and the larger opposition as a group would like to highlight in the session that's coming up?
There are a host of issues that we'd like to raise as an opposition against the people who are so-called in power. If you're talking about issues that really need to be raised, there are many, like road safety, inflation, unemployment, environment. But there are two important issues that really need to be raised when it comes to Maharashtra. One is the behavior of the Honorable Governor, and the other issue is where the projects that are due for Maharashtra have now started going to other states, primarily to Gujarat. And this has happened in the last 3 months since the Shinde-Fadnavis government come into power in Maharashtra.
If I were to elaborate on the national issues, including unemployment, inflation, the government has told us, and repeatedly we've heard this issue, that India is a growing economy. It's now the fifth largest economy in the world, going up full steam ahead. We've taken over Britain. When you look at those things, how do you juxtapose them?
The government is very good at publicizing things and, making people aware of the fact that is not the truth. The question here is, in the last 45 years, not happened before, has happened now is the highest unemployment rate. They keep talking about GDP, they keep going about $5 trillion economy, but where is the GDP right now? Where is the inflation right now? Where are the jobs? You keep promising, in 2014 they promised 2 crore jobs. It's now like an old rhetoric where we've been saying this over and over again, but the government keeps saying that we are giving jobs. But our question is, you promised 2 crore jobs every year. It's been 8 years. That means 16 crore jobs. Now you say we are giving 70,000 jobs here, 75,000 jobs in this state. So the question is this 16 crore jobs plus 70,000 jobs, or is it minus that number? Because you can keep talking, but right now the country is suffering. Prices are going up. Inflation is going up. This whole talk about petrol, diesel, fuel prices. When UPA government was in place, the crude oil prices were at an all-time high, but still the fuel prices were less. Here, the fuel prices are going up even when the crude oil prices have come down.
Mr. Costa, you mentioned one important aspect which concerns every citizen in the country is road safety, and the way in which we are moving the economy, it's spurring the economic growth. We have a very active minister who also comes from the state which you are from. What exactly have you in mind?
I'll tell you something. Progress, development, infrastructure is very important. Every country should have it. Every state should have it. And we as citizens, it is our right to have good roads, good infrastructure. At the same time, while you're increasing the lanes, while you're making wider roads, the safety aspects of those roads also have to be taken into consideration. So these are points which I would not like to divulge right now. Those will be placed in the parliament and you'll see how those questions are raised.
Mr. Costa, one issue that you mentioned about the governors, an issue on that and the point of projects being shifted, which you said more pronounced after the government which is in place in Maharashtra. But how do you find traction and support when you're raising the issue of a nature which is largely concentrates on your state from which you come from, Maharashtra in particular, to find a resonance across the political spectrum in Parliament?
I'll tell you something. Our MPs from Maharashtra will raise this issue in the Parliament because this can happen across the country. We have a constitutional position of the governor, and we have a governor here in Maharashtra who goes on to make statements that is hurting the sentiments of the people, that is hurting people in terms of, say, for example, he said in one of his gatherings, he said that if the Marwadis or the Gujaratis were taken out of Bombay, people wouldn't know what to do. Why do you make distinction or divide people in terms of their caste or religion? You are a governor, you have a constitutional position, you are insulting the martyrs who fought and brought Maharashtra together. So you say things like that, then it's going to upset people. And if someone in a constitutional position is not asked questions about this, then the same thing can be repeated in other states too. We have Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, someone we revere, someone we respect. Even the BJP, while they were holding elections or their campaigns, used the name of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to get votes. Now when a governor says things like that about Chhatrapati Maharaj, then why is the question not being raised? I'll tell you one more thing. Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, their contribution to Maharashtra and to the country is well respected and people revere them too. You give a statement like, when they got married when they were very small and you know what happens later and he's giggling over it. This does not behove well of a person or a man who's holding a constitutional position. These questions have to be raised.
Mr. Costa, opposition is splintered. There is no cohesiveness at many a time. As a result, issues get diffused and the kind of thrust that one expects or a pressure that the opposition would like to put on the government on issues of public interest seem to get lost.
This is a rhetoric that's been run by BJP saying that the opposition is not united. Let me give an example of Maharashtra where I come from. The Maha Vikas Aghadi is united, was united, is united and will be united in the future. By them saying that the opposition is not united does not mean the opposition is not. We are raising questions together. We will continue to raise questions together.
Mr. Santosh Kumar, the CPI in particular would like to raise certain issues. Would you share with us, listeners?
As you know, the CPI and the left was always the champion of the cause of the common people. But let me tell you one thing before going to the details of the issues that are to be raised in the winter session. After all, what is the point in raising all these issues? Because the parliament has reduced to, kind of a meeting platform only. It has become ineffective in many ways. Why? Because the government, the ruling dispensation is not taking it a serious one. So the Prime Minister is not attending the sessions. Narendra Modi ji is not taking care of the parliament. One issue, leave that part. And bills are introduced by the government many times, but no proper discussion, no time to discuss anything. Bills require more discussions, more consultations because political people are not aware of many things. So this is the major issue and number of days must be increased, discussion hours must be increased and the government must be serious in all these implementing the established procedures and principles. That is the first thing. And if you ask me about the major issues, price hike is the number one issue. Last time, the whole parliament session was collapsed because of this issue. Then secondly, issue of governors. Governor post is in a way, it's an ornamental post. A mechanical copying of the 1935 Government of India Act of the Britishers. And governors are trying to establish a parallel government in almost all the non-BJP ruled states.
Mr. Santosh, one issue which is very important and people keep looking at is all the time is the splinter in opposition. There is no unity when it comes to flow coordination, and sometimes parties seem to be pulling in different directions. That allows the government the leeway to continue, and opposition is ineffective is the feeling that has been creeping in.
You rightly said it, that there is no unity which the country is expecting from the opposition party. High expectations are because 60% of the total electorate are against the ruling BJP dispensation. And it is the duty of the opposition parties to unite these people. You rightly stated that there is no unity as such, which is effective, which is meaningful, which the country actually is looking for. That is a drawback, and we will try to address it from our side also.
Mr. Jayant Sinha, the opposition has a slew of charges. Would you like to respond to what has been said?
What I would like to say is that the government always wants to have productive discussions in Parliament. Not only do we have a busy legislative calendar with 16 new bills that are being introduced and also several bills that are going to be brought in after committee scrutiny. So we have a significant legislative business that has to be transacted. And in addition, the government always provides sufficient time for honorable opposition members to bring up issues and to have debates on those. So, for example, in the monsoon session, we had a long discussion on price rise. So that is a second opportunity for the opposition to bring up their issues. And then finally, all honorable members in Parliament, through zero-hour notices, through question hours, and other special calling attention notices, have a chance to be able to bring up issues of urgent public importance. So government has always provided sufficient opportunity for all issues that are in the national interest to be in Parliament and to be discussed in Parliament. Unfortunately, over the last few years, we have seen that honorable opposition members choose to use Parliament more as a platform to express their grievances rather than to have constructive discussion and debate.
Mr. Sinha, one particular issue that you may have also perused it was published a couple of days ago by the Congress. They said we've been wanting a discussion on the situation on China border with India. And somehow that has not been going, and they likened it with the 1962 conflict where the then Prime Minister, they say, sat in Parliament and not only listened to what members of Parliament had to say, took in the criticism and also responded to it. So this is something which they have made in public domain.
Well, the Honorable Prime Minister has sat in Parliament, has listened to debates, has responded to debates. Every session he has participated in a very significant way. So that level of participation has absolutely been the case with the Honorable Prime Minister as well. With respect to the specific topic about China, I think that is for the Honorable Parliamentary Affairs Minister in consultation with senior leaders of our party to decide whether that is an appropriate subject for debate or not.
You said there is 16 bills. We already read about it, that they will likely to be moved for introduction and passage. One other charge that has been heard repeatedly from the opposition benches is very little time is given to scrutinize the bills. Very few bills are actually referred to committees for detailed examination. How fair or unfair is this comment?
I reject that. I am the chair of the Standing Committee on Finance, and virtually every important law, whether it is the competition bill that we are considering right now, whether it's the insolvency and bankruptcy code that we've looked at previously, or any other major legislation, almost all of them have come to our committee. We have examined them in great detail. So, for example, the competition law came to us in August, just after the monsoon session had ended. And subsequently, in the last 3 months, we have held extensive stakeholder consultations. We've received inputs from all sections, from business, from academics and experts, from practicing attorneys. So we've received very, very wide-ranging views and opinions, and we have incorporated all of that into a report that we will be presenting to Parliament in this session. And therefore, I can say with complete conviction that when it comes to major legislation, at least as far as Finance Ministry and our associated ministries are concerned for the Standing Committee on Finance, we've had an opportunity to provide comprehensive and detailed inputs to all this major legislation.
Mr. Sinha, on the subject of finance, a number of people who participate in the debate have flagged a couple of issues. One, of course, you had mentioned the debate on price rise. They talk of growing unemployment in certain sectors, and they kind of disagree with the assessment that, of course, they are not very comfortable with the fact that, yes, as an economy is growing, but its effects is not percolating down to the level at which it should. Would you like to comment on that, please?
Disagreements are welcome in democracy. That is the essence of democracy. And of course, on every topic, we welcome discussion, debate, and different points of view. But even though you might have different opinions, you can't have different facts. So the facts are the facts. And what they are telling us very clearly that India is right now shining star globally in terms of economic growth, and that the fruits of the recovery post-COVID have been shared very widely. The overall economy is doing well. We are seeing unemployment numbers coming down and wages have been going up. And even while all this is happening, inflation has been largely kept under control. So economic growth is helping everyone and it is benefiting people, particularly young people who are looking for jobs right now.
Mrs. Sinha, another issue that was flagged repeatedly by several people is they feel that the spirit of federalism seem to be eroding, number one. B, they feel that agencies of the government seem to have unleashed them on certain people in the opposition. How does that figure out?
I'm sure these topics will be discussed either in Parliament or through committee discussions and so on. So everybody will have a chance to express their opinions as they do in the media every day. But as far as these charges are concerned, if agencies are lawfully prosecuting criminals, if they're going after people, so for example, in Jharkhand, my own home state, these very same agencies have brought to light thousands of crores of corruption, large-scale scams as far as mining is concerned, as far as land is concerned. And this is all based on evidence, it's all based on seizures. So I think the people of this country welcome the fact that these agencies are going after wrongdoers, they're going after criminals, and people who have accumulated very vast illicit gains, which they're finding when they go in and they do their investigations.
One issue, of course, comes back to a subject which is your forte, is finance. And the fact that many people have talked about the price rise and also linking it to the kind of petrol and diesel hike that comes up periodically and having a cascading effect on the economy. So is there something which you can offer?
It's very clear that India has done a wonderful job of ensuring price stability. You have to recognize that globally, inflation is running in double digits. That means 10%, 8%, in that range around the world. So while that is the case in virtually every other major economy, in India, inflation is running between 6 to 7%, despite there being some very significant drivers of price rise. So oil prices have gone up, food prices have gone up globally, fertilizer prices have gone up globally. So even though we've had, because of the Ukraine war, a massive price shock to the excellent policies of the government, we have been able to cushion that price rise and make it so that we keep inflation under control and at the same time not significantly reduce growth. So that balance between growth and inflation in India has been managed better than virtually in any other country in the world. We just have to look at a country like Sri Lanka or Pakistan to see how difficult it has been for other countries to maintain that balance, or even consider what is happening in the UK, Europe, and in the US, which are other major economies, where not only is inflation very high, this has led to very significant rate increases by the central bank, which are now going to plunge these economies into a recession. So they have not been able to manage this balance between growth and inflation. In India, on the other hand, we have modest inflation and strong growth, so we've managed that balance very well.
Thank you very much. That was a discussion on issues that members of parliament would like to raise in the House when the session begins. And you also heard how the BJP and the government in particular are preparing themselves and ready for discussion and debate on issues that members in the opposition would like to raise. As we go along, we'll see the session. Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on issues before Parliament. The participants were Jayant Sinha, Lok Sabha MP from Bharatiya Janata Party, Dr. Syed Nasir Hussain, Rajya Sabha MP from Indian National Congress, Clyde Crasto, National Spokesperson of Nationalist Congress Party, P. Santosh Kumar, Rajya Sabha MP from Communist Party of India, and John Brittas, Rajya Sabha MP from Communist Party of India, Marxist. Senior journalist K.V. Prasad was moderating the discussion. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.